Welcome to TalkTickers. We're your shortcut to understanding the critical insights from today's earnings calls.
And today we're diving into the latest report from Neurocrine Biosciences.
Let's jump right in. What are the headline numbers?
Okay, so for the first quarter of 2025, Neurocrine reported Ingrezza product sales came in at $545 million.
Okay.
And Kessimti, this is its first full quarter since launch, it brought in $15 million in net revenue.
15 million, first quarter out. Interesting.
Yeah, and they received 413 enrollment forms, with about 70% of the dispenses being reimbursed already.
Wow, 70% reimbursement is pretty high for a new launch.
It is, yeah. Also important, they reaffirmed their full year 2025 Ingrezza sales guidance that's still $2.5 billion to $2.6 billion.
So sticking with the big target for Ingrezza.
Exactly. And they highlighted achieving record new patient starts for Ingrezza in Q1. Big pipeline news, too. They kicked off 2 major phase 3 programs.
Oh, yeah. What are those?
One for Osater in major depressive disorder, MDD, and another for MBI-568 in schizophrenia.
Got it. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Ingrezza, obviously still the main engine here, but $545 million. It sounds like maybe Q1 had some complexities.
That's right. I mean, while sales were strong, the number does reflect having one less order week compared to last year.
Wow, the calendar effect.
Yep. And we also saw, the usual Q1 stuff, patient reauthorization processes kicking in, and those gross to net dynamics playing a role.
Gross to net, always a factor early in the year.
Always. But the key thing, I think, is that record number of new patients starting Ingrezza. That signals really strong underlying demand despite the other factors.
Right, that's a positive sign.
And something else helping going forward. Expanded formulary coverage under Medicare Part D kicked in April 1st. That should definitely improve patient access.
Okay. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, that keeps coming up everywhere. How did that play into Neurocrine's Q1?
It's definitely a factor shaping how payers operate. Neurocrine mentioned specifically that reauthorizing existing Ingrezza prescriptions, that process got more challenging in Q1.
More challenging than before.
Yeah, it seems payers are maybe applying more scrutiny there now, kind of like we saw impacting initial prior authorizations late last year. It's like the focus shifted a bit to the re-ups this quarter.
Interesting. So payers adapting. But despite those dynamics, Neurocrine sounds confident about Ingrezza's growth. Reaffirming guidance suggests that.
Absolutely. Their strategy seems multifaceted. They've got an expanded sales force, which they said is already helping drive those record new patient starts.
Where's the sales force focused?
Particularly targeting psychiatry and long-term care settings. That seems to be paying off. Plus, they're pushing for better formulary access, getting Ingrezza covered on more insurance plans.
Makes sense. Easier access, more patients.
Right. And enhanced marketing initiatives, too. They stress that even with competitors out there, Ingrezza still gets the majority of prescriptions for tardive dyskinesia patients who are new to treatment.
Maintaining that leadership.
Seems so. Their contracting strategy is all about maximizing patient access. They mentioned recent deals that expand Medicare coverage through 2026.
Good for long-term visibility.
It is. Though, one small note. They do expect a slight decrease sequentially in Ingrezza's gross to net for Q2 because of some of these recent contracts. But overall, the expectation is definitely for sales growth to accelerate in Q2 and the back half of the year.
And patient persistency. Are people staying on the drug?
Yeah, they said persistency remains steady across different channels. Now, those Q1 reauthorization challenges, they did cause slightly higher drop-offs and some delayed refills.
Ah, so there was some impact there.
A bit, yes. But it was more than offset by all those new patient additions. It sort of highlights that underlying demand is still there, suggesting things should bounce back, assuming no more, logistical hiccups.
Okay, makes sense. Let's switch gears to Kessimti. $15 million in its first full quarter. You said that's promising.
I think so, yeah. They're reporting strong early adoption that's in both pediatric and adult patients with congenital hyperplasia or CH.
Any difference between the groups?
Interestingly, yeah. The initial uptake seems a bit higher in the pediatric and adolescent groups. And they're getting good feedback from endocrinologists across different practices.
And that 70% reimbursement rate? How did they manage that so quickly?
Well, that was mainly through the exceptions process. Case-by-case approvals, formulary reviews by insurance plans, those are expected throughout the year.
So getting it covered even before it's officially on the list.
Exactly. Which, honestly, getting that rate through exceptions suggests payers see a strong clinical need. It gives them a good foundation for those formal reviews later on.
So the early signs are good, but it's still early days.
Very much so. I mean, The initial metrics look positive, but you really need longer-term data. How well do patients stay on it? Do they take it as prescribed? That kind of thing will really show if it can become a new standard of care for CH.
And the patient mix, leaning pediatric?
Yeah, it is trending more towards pediatric and adolescent patients than adults right now, which actually aligns with what they expected before launch.
Who's making the access happen smoothly?
They credited their market access team. Apparently, they did a good job educating payers on CH and Kessimti's benefits, leading to relatively seamless fills.
Any idea how long it takes from enrollment to getting the drug?
Still a bit too early to put a precise number on that average time. But they said feedback on the pharmacy channel side has been positive, which is encouraging.
Okay, so Ingrezza holding strong, Kessimti starting well. What about the R&D pipeline? That's the future growth engine, right?
Absolutely. And it's pretty busy. Neurocrine kicked off 3 phase 3 studies for Osater. That's as an adjunctive treatment for major depressive disorder.
3 phase 3s for one drug. Wow.
Yeah, quite a commitment. We should see top-line data rolling in throughout 2027 for those. They also started the first of 3 phase 3s for MBI-568 and schizophrenia.
Another big program.
Yep. Top-line data there is expected maybe 2027, 2028. An interesting note here. The phase 3 design is actually simpler than phase 2 was. It's focusing on just one dose, 20 milligrams.
Streamlining it a bit. What else is coming up soon?
We're expecting top-line data from 2 other phase 3 studies this year, both using Valbenazine, the active ingredient in Ingrezza.
Okay.
One is looking at it as an add-on treatment in schizophrenia.
Yeah.
That was more proof of concept, though. They don't plan a label expansion from it. The other is in dyskinetic cerebral palsy, that one could potentially lead to a new approved use.
That could be significant.
It could. And there's more. A phase 2 dose-finding study for MBI-570, also an MDD, that's on track for data in the second half of this year. The potential hook there is maybe a faster onset of action than Osater.
Faster onset would be a big deal in depression.
Definitely. And finally, they've got this whole portfolio of muscarinic compounds, agonists, antagonists, targeting M1, M4 receptors. Those are moving through phase 1. And they plan to start a phase 2 study for one of them, MBI-570, in acute psychosis by year-end.
So yeah, a lot of irons in the fire, as they say. There was also news about a leadership change, wasn't there?
Yes, a change in the medical leadership. Dr. Sanjay Keswani is set to join as the new chief medical officer in June.
And the current CMO?
Dr. Ivory Roberts, the current CMO. She'll be transitioning into a strategic advisory role within Neurocrine.
Okay. So bringing all these pieces together, Ingrezza, Kessimti, that very busy pipeline, the leadership change, what's the big picture takeaway for investors listening to this?
Well, from an investment perspective, Neurocrine looks pretty solid right now. You've got the diversified revenue with Ingrezza as the anchor, but now Kessimti adding a promising new element.
Diversification is good.
It is. Plus, that deep, advancing R&D pipeline holds significant potential for future value. And they're sitting on a strong balance sheet, $1.8 billion in cash.
Provides flexibility.
Definitely. The key positives from this quarter, I'd say, are those record readouts. Ingrezza new patients start showing demand is there, despite payer hurdles and the better-than-expected early launch of Kessimti. That really points to a potential new growth driver.
And the pipeline moving forward.
Right. Initiating multiple phase 3 studies isn't trivial. It represents potentially huge future value if they succeed. But of course, there are things to watch. You'll want to monitor Kessimti's reimbursement trends closely as those formulary reviews happen. That 70% exceptions rate needs to translate into broad coverage.
Makes sense.
Also, the results from that Valbenazine study in schizophrenia, the proof of concept 1, that'll give important clues for how they develop their next-gen VMAT2 inhibitors.
Looking ahead.
Exactly. And finally, just keeping an eye on how they navigate that whole evolving payer landscape formulary access, the IRA impacts that will continue to be crucial for their revenue and profit down the line.
Right. That brings us to our segment where we toss around some ideas. And let me stress, this is purely for discussion, entertainment, definitely not financial advice. So hit us with an outrageous but plausible trade idea based on Neurocrine today.
Okay, first one. Thinking about Kessimti.
Yeah.
That strong early uptake, the potential to become standard of care in CH. Maybe you consider going long Neurocrine, but with a tight stop loss just under recent lows, manage risk.
Okay, long Neurocrine. What's the outrageous part?
The outrageous element is really betting heavily that Kessimti exceeds current expectations, becomes that standard of care maybe faster than the market thinks. If that happens, you can see a significant re-rating of the stock. You're betting on smashing expectations with a relatively new drug.
So betting on accelerated success for Kessimti. Got it. Any others?
Second idea, Focusing back on Ingrezza, they reaffirmed that strong guidance, hit record new patient starts, suggests it's still leading the market effectively.
Right.
So consider a pairs trade. Long Neurocrine and short a competitor in the VMAT2 inhibitor space. Maybe one that's shown slower growth or seems to be facing tougher payer headwinds.
Interesting. Long the leader, short a laggard.
Kind of. The outrageous angle here is betting that Neurocrine doesn't just lead, but significantly outperforms its direct competitor, maybe more than the market expects, really capitalizing on that expanded sales reach and marketing push in what's becoming a more mature market. Again, highly speculative, lots of risk. Do your own homework.
Absolutely. Okay. Great food for thought there. So wrapping this deep dive up, Neurocrine Biosciences showing a pretty strong commercial performance from Ingrezza and encouraging start for Kessimti and really significant progress across that deep neuroscience pipeline.
Yeah, they seem well positioned, navigating current market stuff while aiming for both near-term and future growth.
Agreed. And just a final reminder for everyone listening, this has been our summary and analysis of the earnings call. It's crucial you conduct your own thorough research before making any investment decisions based on this or anything else.
We'd love to hear what you think, though. Let us know your takeaways from this deep dive.